So then, Arsenal have agreed a deal to sign Eze after swooping in to steal the midfielder away from their big rivals Spurs, who were believed to be closing in on the move just hours earlier. Arsenal had been interested in Eze earlier in the window, but came back in for the deal when Spurs thought they'd agreed with Crystal Palace that move. Arsenal have agreed £67.5 million, a fee of 67.5 for the forward, and we will see how that one plays out over the next week or so. Of course, he's been at Arsenal as a kid. He was there up until 13 years old. Dara, it is fantastic to have you with us this morning. You're jet-lagged, you've had lots of coffees. We've poked the bear all morning. We're ready for you.
My football club can't win a game of football at the moment. Yeah, it's all wonderful.
I didn't want to share the table with Peter.
Fine.
You've gone there
I'm
first.
a big boy. Yeah.
Look, this is made for you, isn't it? Are you looking forward to it?
Yeah, really looking forward to it.
Because you're not backward in coming forward.
You know me, and as I said to you guys, you can't cancel me for any of the things I say. That was in my contract with Sky when I agreed to do this, so let's have some fun.
Yeah, let's have some fun. Look, firstly, how frustrating then for Tottenham, for their fans who we're going to hear from this morning, Dara, that their biggest rivals look to have come in and gazumped them.
Yeah, if I'm Daniel Levy, if I'm everyone at Spurs, after the Gibbs-White situation, what happened there, and they're good players they're trying to recruit. They're obviously trying to do good business, so you're going to have to give them credit for that. But their fans are just going to be like, we had this deal done, so two things have now happened. We've lost him to Arsenal, and we've upset the guy who scored 2 goals on Saturday, who suddenly we maybe thrown him in as part of the deal, according to you guys. But I'll flip it the other way and go, this is actually intent from Daniel Levy and Spurs that they do mean business and they want to back Thomas Frank. For me, the agent and the player have probably played a blinder. Arsenal were in for him quite a few weeks ago, and it almost seems to me a situation where they've sat on the sidelines waiting for the terms of a deal to be agreed to then swoop in and get it done. Cool. That's happened to every club in the country, including us last year.
Well, you've got to have broad shoulders, haven't you, as an owner, no matter what division you're in. But do you understand the rage coming Levy's way? Because it's not a new story, is it, from Tottenham supporters?
But he's a human being, and there's a lot of moving parts to any deal. And I guess because of what happened with Gibbs-White and now with this one, of course, he's just going to get it big time. He's been around a long time, and he's a big boy. Yeah. And he'll withstand that. He's got a good manager. They're going to do well, I think, under this manager. They're going to sign players. And look, at the end of the day, this is the market that happens. I've had horrendous things happen to us last minute. We had a guy last year we were chasing for 6 weeks. And as it turned out, the agent and the player were waiting for us to do a deal with his club so that another club could swoop in and agree the same deal and go there instead. And we wasted 6 weeks on it. These things happen in the market. Smaller levels, bigger levels. This was always going to happen, obviously. Yeah. I'm surprised Arsenal are signing another player in that position. Because you'd think, well, with injuries and everything else and what's happened to their nines in the past, maybe a little bit more backup in the striking department. Because Eze's not a striker. We know he can play 10. He's a wide player. I think he's a wide player anymore. He's more 10. So I'm not quite sure where he fits in there. But he's probably getting paid a lot more money there. Because, Tottenham are well run with their salary structure and everything else. It's well known. I would imagine that the agent and him are getting weighed in a lot more going to Arsenal. So there's Arsenal spending big bucks again. It's time to win a title, right?
Says the Liverpool fan.
Yeah, but you'd argue and go, well, not really, because Liverpool are, 150 million net spend?
Yeah.
When you throw in they didn't spend anything last year, 75, 100 million a year. Is that a fair amount to spend as one of the big top 10 clubs in the world every summer?
Well, look, I've got some big ESAC questions coming for you later. Sure. But look, Sky Sports have partnered with Fanalyst, an app where passionate fans known as Fanalists share their opinions on their club. And we're going to hear now from an Arsenal fanalist, Scarlet Cats Roberts, and Tottenham Hotspur fanalist, Mitch Fretton. Good morning to both of you two. Dara's ready for your questions as well. Firstly, Scarlet, if you do get Eze, happy with this deal?
Yeah, well, I think there are kind of footballing and non-footballing reasons why it's a good deal. I think it's a deal for the heart, isn't it? Like, he's already got his mural painted in the tunnel by the Emirates. He's an Arsenal fan. He played in the academy. It's a statement. We've snatched a really good player away from Tottenham, a rival, if you want to call them that. There's going to be like an avalanche of Sol Campbell banter coming. And I think after a summer of pragmatism, really, with the kind of Norgards, the Keppers, the Mosqueras, this feels like a real kind of maverick signing. Eze plays with real character. And I think if Liverpool do go on to sign Isak, their investment in their attack, having already spent 90 million euros on Ekitike, I think would have felt disproportionate with ours. And I think you can't underestimate the feel-good factor that this guy's going to bring, not to mention the football reasons. He ranked 4th for shots per game last season, takes a lot of long shots. But there's probably going to be criticism over the price. It is a high price, really, for a 27-year-old. especially considering how Arsenal tend to spend. Also, as you guys discussed before, it's not really bringing in any backup in the number 9 position where we're now light. So there is a question mark there. And then when you have Darwin and Ranieri coming through in that number 10 position, is he going to block their pathway?
Scarlett, where does he play? If you're picking a team on Saturday, where does he play?
Well, to me, I think I was at open training yesterday and Trossard was playing through the middle. So my guess would be, as a kind of layman tactician, that he's going to play off the left. And we're now light in options there. And I think that probably does add something. My worry for that would be, Grealish at Man City, brilliant individual, goes into a really strong system and kind of diminishes. But, bringing Eze in on that left-hand side, it's really different to Martinelli, who plays a running game. He likes to have space in front of him. He's rapid. Eze is kind of considered, skillful, will come inside. And I think those two skill sets really complement each other when you're trying to do something different, particularly when it comes to the dreaded low blocks.
I really want to know what Mitch thinks about all of this because, look, no surprise, Mitch, the football club owner, Dara MacAnthony, defending Daniel Levy. Do you agree with that? Do you agree with what Dara had to say a few minutes ago?
Not entirely, to be honest with you. I mean, I think the general outlook among the Spurs fan base is that we're all furious. And the thing is, it's not even necessarily anger at Eze himself or at Arsenal for coming in. It's anger at Tottenham and Daniel Levy for not being able to get a deal done when we've had a free run at him over the last couple of weeks. James Maddison tore his ACL 3-4 weeks ago now, and we know we've been massively light in that attacking midfield department. And Eze has been someone that the club have had their eye on for years, is like the perfect fit for the squad. And yet we've been haggling over bonuses and add-ons over the last week. We've been trying to bring the price down as much as we can. And then Arsenal, Kai Havertz gets injured and within a day, everything breaks that they've got a deal sealed for him. So I think it's more frustration and anger that after the Gibbs-White stuff as well, now this has fallen through our fingers. And the fact that it is to Arsenal as well, I think the feeling is anger at Spurs, at Daniel Levy, and I feel embarrassed personally to do that with the whole deal. I think it's a really, really bad look for us.
If it was any other club but Arsenal, would you feel still as strong, still as emotional?
It depends. Maybe in the Premier League, I think I'd feel very, very similar if it was Chelsea. Maybe not if it was maybe another European giant, perhaps. I know Bayern Munich were linked to him earlier in the window. From that perspective, possibly not. But Arsenal, I think it's always gonna cause uproar in that sense, just because of the rivalry and the history. And as Carla's already mentioned, the Sol Campbell stuff, it brings back a lot of painful memories. And it's just another player to add to the list of failed deals that we haven't been able to get over the line. And we're already a week into the season, and we are severely lacking in that area of the pitch still.
Yeah, look, Mitch, I don't want to make your morning even worse, mate, but I'm going to ask Scarlett. If you get this Eze deal across the line come September the 1st, where does this put you then in terms of title favourites? Can it bring you even closer? I know you finished above City last season, but even closer to City and Liverpool. Dara, the Liverpool fan, may not agree with this one, but are you right in the picture now?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think we were before we were going to sign Eze. I think the thing people like to overlook about this Arsenal side is that 2 years ago we got 89 points with no Eze, Zubimendi, anyone, of course we're in the mix. I think it's super close. I wouldn't go on record and say I think we're way ahead of the rest. I think it's going to be probably a 2-horse race with Liverpool, potentially. City have now moved the dial on that.
Scarlett, surely Arteta has to win the league now, no?
Yeah,
surely Arsenal have to.
That would be my question for Scarlett. Is it title or bust?
I think that's a narrative rival fans are interested in peddling, because it's probably better for you if Arteta isn't the manager of Arsenal.
When did he last win a cup? When did he last win a trophy?
When did he last win a trophy, Scarlett?
If we won the FA Cup, which we did, but finished 8th or 9th or whatever, I wouldn't be happy. Honestly, I feel like my team are competing. We have a genuine chance of winning the title. We did last year and the year before. And you don't just win because you should win, because you deserve to win. We know that football is like a cascade of random factors bumping into each other, and you might get an injury, you might get a terrible refereeing decision. And yeah, I'm not going to, rely on those as excuses from last season. I totally agree Arteta's under pressure. But I think the idea that he has to win the Premier League is kind of reductive and completely skips over the fact that we have the best league in the world, which is like incredibly competitive. And we love that.
I'm just thinking from a Spurs point of view as well, Mitch. Look, just to play devil's advocate here, miss out on Eze. Some may say this was always going to happen. Arsenal were just waiting in the wings and Eze was always going to go to the Emirates. I think Dara agrees with that as well. But Richarlison, depending what you were listening to yesterday, potentially part of a deal and moving him on, now trying to keep Richarlison happy, potentially missing out on Savinho, Manchester City, Maddison out for almost the whole season, Kulusevski out until, what, Mitch, nearly Christmas time. Where is that creativity going to come in this Tottenham team under Thomas Frank?
Well, exactly. There's no excuses to not be bringing players in this summer. I would argue, as it stands, the Tottenham squad as it is currently worse off than it was last season under Ange Postecoglou in terms of the players that we lost. When you take Son, Maddison, Kulusevski out of the team, you're losing dozens of goals and assists that we simply haven't replaced, especially when you look at what Kudus's numbers were last season. So that, again, that's where all the anger's coming from, and like, I don't feel like there are many options left on the market that Daniel Levy can now go to that will redeem him. I don't think there is a signing that Tottenham can now bring in.
Well, Mitch, what about Wissa? Mitch, would you want to hijack the Wissa deal to Newcastle?
I mean, it seems like it's not a priority, to be honest with you. Like I said, that number 10 has to be the priority, especially with how Richarlison started the season. And the fact that news sort of broke that we would offer him to Palace as part of a deal. And I mean, if that is true, it just seems like such a silly move, considering how desperate Richarlison clearly is to impress the Spurs fans, Thomas Frank. And Johan Wissa, yes, he scored, 19 Premier League goals last season. And I think he would be a good striker and obviously has worked with Thomas Frank in the past. But again, that's not the position that we need so desperately at the moment. And if we go the last, 11, 12 days of the transfer window without bringing a number 10 creative midfielder in, it's going to be a very long season.
Mitch, do you think it's unambitious from Tottenham?
Yes, and I think we've been unambitious for a long time.
Scott, behave yourself.
I love this. You got two fans. One of them won a trophy last year. The other one was the proverbial bridesmaid again. Do you know what I mean? And it's like dig. Mitch,
but Derek, that's the thing.
You got to have a little bit of confidence here. It's like you're getting beaten here. Scarlett's beating you up. You got to turn around and go, with all due respect, you should be delighted to win the FA Cup. Your manager hasn't won anything for a few years. Like, the money you're spending. Yeah. Arsenal outspend Spurs pretty much 99% of the time. Mm-hmm. And I get you finished 17th, wherever you finished last year. You still, in my opinion, were more successful because you did end up with a trophy. Everyone seems to think, well, you finished second, it's brilliant. You may as well give a trophy for second place. But unless you take the title to the final day of the season, like Liverpool did a couple of times and got beaten by Man City and then went on to win the title, that for me is a proper title challenge. When you're basically giving up a title 3-4 games to go, I'm not sure. And if I'm the Cronkies and the money that's been put in, he's got to be under pressure. And he's got to take it at 100%. Least to the final day of the season this season for me to really say, hey, I'm doing a good enough job.
Arsenal have to win something this season.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think it's only one of the major ones that really are going to be acceptable, the Premier League or the Champions League. They spend hundreds of millions almost every summer. They finish runners-up however many times in a row. They have a very, very good squad, and Arteta has had long enough to deliver that sort of success, and he still hasn't. And I don't think he will, to be honest. I don't think he's the manager to lead Arsenal to that title that they've been looking for the last 20 years, to be honest with you.
It's now or never this season.
I'll tell you what my biggest fear for this Arsenal team is, and maybe Mitch will relate to it. It's Pochettino's Tottenham. A squad that was really well put together, brilliant team, physically competitive, but blown up by this notion that we need to win now, And Arteta, after all, and I agree, Arsenal are in a position where the investment means there's pressure on them. But, the idea that you have to win something and that be the only option, to me, just undermines supporting your club. Of course, I'm not going to be Arteta out because I think he's got us to this position. And, I think everyone would agree that Arsenal are really good. We can't not be. We finished second in the league 3 times.
Yeah. But, Scarlett, I think the point on that is, again, we're looking into crystal balls, but fast forward.
I love her
another
opinion
10
there,
months.
by the way, about being a fan. It's not just win a trophy. I do agree with Scarlett there.
Absolutely.
You see clubs going out of business and everything else, and fans don't have that luxury.
Yeah.
You know, to be able to go support your club no matter what, I do love that passion side from Scarlett there.
But
you got to win something this year.
But that's my point. Fast forward 10 months, Scarlett, are we still having the same conversation if it's a trophyless season again?
Well, you're having the same conversation with me, but I do think there are parts of the fan base that are, you know, really turning against Arteta. And personally, I find that quite difficult because I think, you know, Liverpool fans add probably maybe 3 to 5 points a season with their support. St James's Park is a horrible place to go. And it frustrates me because you can feel the negativity in the atmosphere towards Arteta. And like, if he doesn't succeed, look, it will be on his shoulders. But I think the fans bear responsibility in part for what they transmit to the team.
Mitch, you can have the final word before we show you how the poll's looking at the moment. Which way have you voted? Well, you'll have a chance after this when you scan your QR code. Does Tottenham losing out on Eze make Arsenal title favourites?
No. Liverpool are definitely still title favourites. I think Arteta's track history, and to be honest with you, the Eze deal, while from a sentimental perspective, I get why Eze's chosen to go there, but I don't think he's going to play in his best position there if he plays off the left. I don't think that's where he's at his strongest. And they still, although Havertz has been injured, they haven't brought in another striker. So I don't think they are title favourites. And I know I don't particularly want to judge them off one game last week against Manchester United, but I wasn't impressed with Arsenal at all. I actually think they might well fall behind City and Liverpool this season.